Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Oren, and this, of course, is the game of money. Why do we call this podcast the game of money? It's just so straightforward. After your basic needs are taken care of, earning money, then it just becomes point collecting and a game. I called this morning with the guys on my board of directors on one of my portfolio companies. I would say his money needs in order for housing and travel and college for the kids and flying to restaurants and buying the detritus of life and having a cool car and being able to take care of family. The need for that ended 25, 30 years ago. So for the last 25 years, that guy has to wake up and make sure he doesn't just eat Doritos and watch ESPN3 curling where they're shooting the little pucks on ice. What purpose is there in life? And that guy wakes up and works as hard as anybody. And again, I'm not going to peg a number on his net worth, but it's giant. And he wakes up, goes hard in the paint. Why? Purpose. And the money just becomes a game, and you want to be good at a game you play. We're old and decrepit, and maybe we play some pickleball and soccer on the weekends and maybe a little pickup, two-hand touch or flag football. But we're in our 50s. We got a little bit of dough. We're decrepit. So we're not going to be in any league and win any games. We're not going to win the game of football. Not going to win the game of soccer. Not going to win the game of pickleball. Not going to win the game of racquetball. We're not out dating. Whatever it is. The only game that we can really play is the game of money. And the game of money is fun. It puts you in contact with the smartest, hardest working, best ideas, new technologies. It's just an amazing thing. The game of money is the best game in the world. Other than football's awesome. But to play professional football is hard. Anybody, you can just, wherever you are right now, play the game of money. All right. And so that's what we're talking about here. One thing that's interesting, for the last couple episodes, I've been interviewing people. If you listen to my interviews, I'm not interviewing the Pope. I don't have Messi. I don't get the exiting quarterback from the Jets. I don't have the coach of the Miami Dolphins, right? I can get those guys, but the people I get are out of my network. Listen to those podcasts. What I am doing is I'm not interviewing somebody who climbed to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, lost their arm, and was telling the tale. It's not a TED Talk. I'm looking for different ways that people have come up through our economy, through our marketing system, and ways that they close deals on there's always something to learn from somebody who's doing business, who's selling deals, who's closing deals, who's moving money. And I'm looking for new and interesting ways that they're closing. It's so important to stay on the leading edge of what's happening, right? I don't want to become a dinosaur, the guy who wrote that book. On that point, I was on a Zoom call today, and this happens all the time with a bank or with investors. And wait, aren't you the guy? Didn't you write that book, Pitch Anything? I read it a while ago. I'm like, no, right? Yes, I did write the book, but no, I'm not the guy that wrote Pitch Anything. I'm the guy who does deals and has been doing deals my whole career. And because of those deals, I wrote the book. So you got to be careful, I think, of who you're listening to. People who write books that are interesting but haven't done the thing they're writing about, then it is creative fiction, interpretive business fiction, something like that. Having a book and then parlaying that book into a business career is backwards. It's called being an entertainer, right? Look for the Ray Dalio, Oren, somebody who had a career, wrote about that career, and then is now speaking, talking, doing podcasts, but still doing that career. So no, I'm not the guy that wrote the book. I'm the guy who did all the deals that the book is about. And I'm also the guy in this deal right here. So on that note, I'm in a big deal, and people come here for a deal update. If you're new here, over the last year, I put about $25 million of my money, investors' money, my colleagues' money in a deal called OK Stone Engineering. The brand is Dion Surfaces. What I love to say is one of the first investors in that deal is a Navy SEAL. Second investor is a first responder. Third investor in that deal is a real estate executive, or not even executive, real estate trader here in Southern California. The fourth investor in that deal owns a private gym and club here. So it doesn't sound like the world's most sophisticated investor to you, but I can tell you those guys as a group are very likely to make $50 million in this deal. So what's happening in this deal? I'm broadcasting to you from our secure, undisclosed location in Southern California, West Coast Finance. But the deal, or the factory that we opened, those guys and another $25 million, along with an Italian company, is in Dallas, Texas. I was there this weekend. For those of you who know this deal, here's the deal update. If you don't know the deal, this is pretty cool. We're on a $25 million run rate for 2025, and we have 2 employees. Again, I'll repeat that so there's no confusion. And for all you securities people listening, you can write this down and come ask or look at the paperwork. We certainly have consultants. We certainly have an accounting firm. We certainly have accounts payable, accounts receivable, legal, logistics people, shipping. But for actual people inside the company who understand our mission, our vision, our objectives, have goals, get paid by the company, 2 people. And we're on a $25 million run rate for 2025, and very likely we'll pick it up from there. So that's pretty good. What's there? The line, we have a manufacturing line that's massive, about $13 million of equipment. That line was laid out by end to end. The welders were welding. The electrical people were electricalizing. The raw material people were raw materializing material. The showroom was open, and we had about 300 of the things we make. Slabs, are called slabs. Stone slabs, absolutely beautiful. They're in inventory. Things were shipping in and out. This is just a beautiful business that we originated here. How? Using the game of money. If you haven't seen the presentation, The Game of Money, go to orenclaff.com, sign up right away, and watch the presentation, The Game of Money. If you hadn't read Pitch Anything, I don't know, I don't know what to do with you. Go read the 4-Hour Work Week and then come back and go, it takes more than 4 hours to pitch anything. Then read Pitch Anything. Come back here to The Game of Money, and you'll be right here where we started. Might as well stay here now where you are. All right, that's the deal update. We're going to talk a little bit about how in the world was I able to get myself into a deal where we're on a $25 million run rate this year, and we started in January commercializing. So first customer came aboard in January of this year. We're already on a $25 million run rate. I project that I'll be up at a $50 million run rate in the next 60 days, next 90 days. And again, today I have 2 employees. It's not like I'm getting ready to hire 20 or 30, and we're going to bring another 3 or 4 people on to have a mature running company. But that's a lot of revenue per employee, right? So a good goal, a good metric, if you're in the game of money and you're building a business, is $1 million per employee. $25 million per 2 employees is just mental. All right. There's just no way to calculate it. And I say that tongue in cheek. Are we going to build that to $200 million with 5 employees? No way. We're going to need accounting and accounts payable and a smiling receptionist, someone to man the showroom, someone to serve coffee. We're going to need people. But today it's quite nice. How did I get into that though? I got into it by doing something boring. As boring as it is, I'm begging you to do it. It's called market macros. I talk about it all the time. And every guest comes in, I'm like, hey, what are your market macros? And they go, what market macros? I'm like, okay, Planet of the Apes, right? How are you doing business without understanding market macros? Market macros are very simply, when you look out the front windshield of the business car you're driving, how far can you see? How far can you see out ahead? Can you see down the road? Can you see the turn coming? Have you been around this corner before? Do you know what's around the turn? Do you have a drone flying and reporting back what's around the turn? Because if you come around that turn and there's an accident, you don't have time to hit your brakes, then you're a fly in the front of that windshield. How far down the road can you see? How good visibility do you have? How much information do you have coming in from Waze and Google Maps and a drone? And are you talking to people who are ahead of you and talking to people behind you and checking the weather, right? Well, how well do you know the environment that you're working in? Why? So you can go faster, more safely. And so when I say market macros, is what is happening in the economy that affects you. I don't know what affects your business, but in the economy, interest rates affect our business. So what I'm talking about, there's a big tent pole in the middle of business called interest rates. If I don't know what interest rates are doing, I cannot run that business competitively. Why? Because we buy equipment, we buy raw materials, and we use real estate. And for that, it's good to use debt. And today debt is expensive. So I use debt very gingerly or not at all because it's so expensive. Equity is also expensive, but when debt is coming down, I'm taking more of it. When debt is coming up, I'm staying more in cash and trying to run the business more efficiently so I don't load up with 14, 16, 18, 20% debt. So interest rates are sensitive to my business. I know. When you're an entrepreneur and you're running a small business, you're like, mumbo jumbo, the labor report, interest rates, the governmental allocations, tariffs, rising labor costs, mumbo jumbo. How does that affect my frozen yogurt shop in downtown San Diego? I don't run a frozen yogurt shop, right? I run a company that ideally will be doing $100 million by the end of the year, and we use as a raw resource money, right? Debt. And if I'm going to use a raw resource called debt, I better know how much it costs. Same damn way if you're running a yogurt shop and you need milk and sugar and butter. I don't know, by the way, I don't know what goes in yogurt, frozen yogurt, but I'm assuming it's milk, sugar, and butter and magic Snicker bars, whatever. But you'll be like, how much is milk, right? Why do you want to know how much milk is? So we know how much we should charge for our frozen yogurt. Why do you care how much you charge for your frozen yogurt? Because there's another frozen yogurt place 2 stores down, right? And they also sell frozen yogurt. And if they're charging $2 and we're charging $4, right, then that doesn't work. Everybody's going to go there. So now I see, well, if even though milk's expensive and they're selling it for $2, you still have to sell your frozen yogurt cones for $2. No, because then we'll lose money. All of a sudden, the price of milk is important. That's why if you have a growing business, the raw material for that business is money. All right? How much money? There's no way you're growing a business rapidly. I'm trying to go from 0 to $100 million. I just went from 0 to $25 million in 2 months, right? $25 million run rate. I'm trying to go to $100 million by the end of the year run rate. And so there's no way to do that without using some form of money, equity and debt. We're talking about debt. For how much debt costs determine how fast I can grow, in the same way as whatever the raw material is for your business. Okay, so if you're planning on growing, the raw material that you're going to use for that business is called money, and you better know how much money costs. But there's other things that matter around that. For example, as I said, I have a very small number of people who run this business, but they're expensive. So the cost of labor also, my business is so margin rich, like those guys can charge $100,000 a month. It almost doesn't matter to me. They don't. Thank God I'm a better negotiator than that. But the cost of labor affects your business. So now the jobless rate or the unemployment rate is important to you. And then so that it determines what the availability of labor for your business is. I was just talking to a guy who is in a big data or mid to early stage big data company. And what do they need at big data companies? They need big data engineers. And where did big data engineers come from? Stanford, Harvard, Yale, MIT, Dartmouth, and I don't know, Oxford University. But there's not like a lot of places. They don't come from Santa Monica Community College, that's for sure. So I was talking to him and he says, we have a real problem because there's no more big data engineers available. And so now you're having to get kids coming out of school. And Google has a number of projects that they need these engineers for, and they're willing to pay up to $1.4 million for somebody who just graduated college, right? They know it's crazy, but they also have whatever, $138 billion in cash, and they want to do the project. So they're just going to pay the $1.4 million because that's the labor rate. So when the guy was telling me in our startups, there's no way we're paying a 24-year-old kid $1.4 million in his second job in his entire life other than an internship. So what have they started doing? They've started finding astronomers and doing the job of converting an astronomer to a big data engineer to expand their labor force. So labor is something you have to keep track of. Now, mumbo jumbo, the crappy stuff they do at the end of the segment on Fox News or NPR. Today's labor rate, the inflation hit 4.5%. Interest rates peaked at and Treasury bills, the 10-year T-bill is at 3.4%. So I know you're just like, when are they going to put the sports news back on? The Dallas Cowboys can actually get a good quarterback. Maybe Debo and CeeDee Lamb line up behind Cooper Rush on the Dallas Cowboys. We actually have a good team this year. When I say we, I live in Carlsbad, California. So not the we. I like the Dallas Cowboys, mainly because my son likes the Dallas Cowboys. But anyway, that's our team for the moment. And I want to get to that part of the newscast when they're talking about those things. I don't have that luxury. I have to listen to the following items: interest rate, the utilization of labor costs, unemployment rate, inflation rate. So inflation rate to me is important because the perception of consumers and households of what they're paying for short-term household goods and gas and food and the things they need to live. And if their perception is things are expensive, then one, they're spending less, but two, they're going to want in a low unemployment environment. So in North County, San Diego, where we are, unemployment is like -4%. Nobody is looking for a job. They might just, so if you're trying to recruit somebody, you have to offer them something better than what they're getting. If their perception is that inflation is high and the cost of living is going up, they're going to ask a lot more for that position than really the actual economy dictates. So perception around inflation at the household level affects my business. So those are things that you have to have a perspective on, not listen every day on the news and have a 24-hour window on it. What we build is macros. What is going to be happening in the market over the quarter and over the year from my perspective that affects my business. I'm going to read you from the factory we have, the company we have manufactures slabs, countertop slabs for home construction and business construction. So I'm going to quickly spin you through what I'm talking about by market macros. These are mine. You have to have your own. By the way, I have a group that weekly goes over market macros. If you want to join it, jump over to orenclaff.com, find some way to contact me, put your name in there, and we can help you join that group. All right. So because I'm in the home construction business where we generate slabs, stone slabs, here's the market macros. Home construction is booming, especially for single family homes, up 1%. Home repairs up almost 3%. Likely due to the storms and hurricanes. Home construction is booming. Why? Storms, hurricanes, fires, and general exuberance at the moment of having a new administration and America is back. Apartments are struggling. Home construction is booming, apartments are struggling, so that even gives us some direction. Where do we put our salespeople? Because we have a market macro, we're looking out the front window of our car. We're not looking at deploying salespeople into multifamily housing or apartments. We're sending them over to the home construction industry. Non-residential construction hit a bump, all right? Offices, hotels, entertainment venues, and transportation projects all dipped slightly. Power and communication projects saw very small gains. So we're not sending salespeople over to non-residential construction, and they don't use a lot of the kind of thing that we make anyway. Manufacturing construction is stalled, doesn't really affect us, but after a big boom, it's now flat. In manufacturing construction, almost no manufacturing construction uses the things we sell. So while we don't really make decisions around that, it's interesting to know. Key takeaway, residential construction spending grew 6% in 2024 to $920 billion. A solid expansion, but with uneven momentum. Uneven momentum doesn't really affect us. With $1.920 trillion, which is $1 trillion of business in the category we're in, we're pretty small. We don't really move the market. So uneven momentum doesn't really affect us. Single family home building led the growth, supporting the broader housing market. I like that. That's exactly what we do. Multifamily construction lagged, creating a drag in certain months, notably November. Market implications. The trend reflects a resilient housing sector. Strength in single family homes aligns with long-term demand. All right, and multifamily softness. So now I know exactly where to send my salespeople, where the growth is, and gives me a sense of pricing and how much pricing power I have in the market. Just from page 1 of a 50-page macro report of looking at what the market is doing. We also have to look at things happening in the news cycle. A full-blown tariff war has been avoided for now, but the risk remains. If Trump tariffs take effect, the auto industry would suffer most, driving uneven inflation and slowing economic growth. Layoffs and production cuts could force central banks, especially Canada's, to ease policy. If tariffs persist through the 2025, the Fed may cut rates by 75 basis points. I have a less than 40% leaning that the Fed is going to cut interest rates, and it is a non-zero chance that the Fed will increase interest rates a quarter basis point. So if there's somewhere I have to gamble on where these interest rate cuts, stability, or rising is going to happen. And so I think underlying all this, I have to think about the Fed won't risk its credibility after the 2022 inflation spike. They're not going to do some crazy stuff, and especially with the Chairman Powell in his final period of running the Fed. He wants his legacy to be stable, and he's not going to have any volatility. So Trump's fiscal and tariff policies raise inflation risks, right? But it's not my base case. It's not my base case. These are the words that I would love for you to have. I don't care if you run a frozen yogurt shop, a plumbing business, or $100 million hedge fund. You have to be able to tell people about your base case. You can be wrong. Economists predicted 18 of the last 2 recessions. It's very hard to predict where the economy will go and make these micro decisions effectively. But you have to have a base case of what you think is going to happen. That's my base case. I went through it very quickly, but we look at this and try to understand the raw materials we use in our business: money, labor, technology. What is the base case of what we think is going to happen for that? And if we can make good decisions about it, then ultimately, boom, we beat the competition at one thing. And then so now, if we're beating them on money decisions and we're working harder than them and we're selling better, remember Pitch Anything, and we're marketing harder, remember Flip the Script, and we have better relationships and we have more access to money and we're growing faster, then what's happening? We're winning the game of money. See you here next time.